Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sejahtera and good evenings. Okay, we continue for our class Business Research Methodology in the week 13th. Okay, the topic is actually covered on the methodology. We still in methodology topics. Okay, so specific topic, hypothesis, relationship models, and qualitative instruments. And so we focus on these two topic. Okay, for the continuous on the topic on the methodology. Okay, uh, so first thing first, we cover first topic is about the hypothesis models, and specifically on the relationship and analysis. Okay, number one is about the correlations. And correlation is a measure of the degree of relationship between X and Y, between IV and DV. And sometime we using IV is for X, and then for DV is the Y, and we show the relationship between one variable and another variable. Commonly we apply for independent variable and dependent variable. Mostly dependent variable represent on the problem the problem of the research, which is independent variable to represent on the solution in order to solve that problems. Okay, relationship strength level. So in order the result from the correlation analysis, we can get the result on the positive or negative. Okay, so the based on the strength level, it should be high, moderate, or low. Also, we also can get the result on the significant or insignificant. So in order to get the result, and specifically on the correlation analysis, the result show that the strength level, which is high, moderate level, and then the result also we can represent on positive or negative result, and also for result significant and insignificant. Correlation does not always consider the cause and effect relationship. So correlation does not, okay, to consider the cause and effect relationship. So if you want to get the effect and influence, this is not correlation, but it is regression. If you will study regression, that you can get the effect and influence, but correlation does not. And correlation just to show the relationship, at least you can get the strength level, positive, negative, significant, and insignificant. And correlation does not measure for the effect and influence. Correlation does not make prediction. Okay. Also, correlation does not make prediction. So correlation does not make prediction, does not for measure effect and influence. In order to measure the effects, influence, and prediction, we should be apply regression. Okay, next regression.
Jadi
So
gambar balik yang kau nak beli barang apa tu. Challenge pula barang lain.
regression determines the influence effect between two variables, so that one can predict the value of one variable based on the others. And so we have multiple of independent variable and towards on the dependent variables. Regression analysis state that influence or effects of cause and effects. Okay, sometimes if you want to get the influence, your result from your analysis, you want to measure influence or effects, we can using regression analysis. Regression can make predictions. Okay, that this is a comparison between correlation and regressions. So that's why in order to answer your research objective and indirectly to answer your problem statement, you should be clear. So based on your objective, should be use a correlation analysis or regression analysis. If you want to measure, at least you want to know that relationship for the strength level, just to know that relationship is positive relationship or negative relationship, or you want to know the relationship should be a significant relationship or insignificant relationship, just enough to use the correlation analysis. For example, use correlation Pearson's. Okay, if you need to answer your objective and this problem statement, to be know the influence, how that factors, for example, how that this multiple independent variable influence with independent variable. Said that in this case you need to use regression analysis, or you want to predict how that independent variable can predict on the dependent variable. So in this matter, you should be apply and use regression analysis. Okay, next for the structure equational model. So this is a part of the advance on the statistical relationship. So we can measure on direct relationship or direct effects, which is blend together to measure, to investigate direct and indirect effects between one variable to another variable. So in terms of directly, we can investigate relationship or effects between one IV to the one DV. So from one IV towards to another DV, we call that direct effect. Also, we can use this SCM to investigate indirect effect by applying moderating and mediating. So from the indirect relationship, so we have three variables, which is independent variable, mediating variable, and dependent variables. Okay, from these hypothesis models, so we discuss on the 7 types on to represent on relationship and effects between independent variable and dependent variables. Number 1 is parallel relationship models, which is one IV and one DV. Sequence relationship models, multiple relationship models with 2 IV and 1 DV, multiple relation model with 3 IV and 1 DV, multiple relationship models with 1 IV and 2 DV, multiple relationship model with 2 IV and 2 DV, and then for the number 7 is structure equation model. So we cover specifically on this 7 type of the hypothesis model. Okay, number 1 is parallel relationship models. Okay, to show that relationship directly between IV and DV. A simple relationship that usually consists of one IV and one DV, okay, is a follow like diagram to show that this relationship, we call that parallel relationship models. For the test statistics, okay, descriptive for data. So this is the first thing first. From this diagram and this framework to show relationship between IV and DV, for the test statistic, number 1, we can get the result for descriptive. So we can get totals and based on the numbers, quantity, frequency, mean, and standard deviation. Also, we can get the result from the inference analysis. So approaching a hypothesis using correlation, which is from this figure, we can see that one hypothesis can propose to show relationship between IV and DV using correlation analysis. From this method for direct relationship, we call that parallel relationship models. Okay, we go to number 2. This we call that sequence relationship models. In this diagram and this figure represent consists on the 3 IV and 1 DV. So sequence relationship consisting of 3 IV and 1 DV as follow. We can see the figure how that the relationship between IV1 to IV2, IV2 to IV3, and IV3 to the DV. So again, correlation, determining of relationship IV1 with IV2, IV2 with IV3, and IV3 with DV. This method of relationship, we call that sequence relationship models. Okay, from this figure, we can also use the regression equations fall or rise of dependent variable can be estimated by dependent variable equation with IV3 with equations dv by a plus b x3. Okay, so you can measure, or if you want to integrate, let's say you want to shift this diagram to integrate together IV1s, IV2 and IV3, you can also use of the multiple regressions, and by combining and with IV1, IV2, IV3. But in this method of the example, this we call that sequence relationship models. So we can analyze the correlation and also we can come up the equation on the regression. So y, which is for the dv, can also be make a equation between a plus b plus x. Okay. We go through the multiple relationships. So in here, we can see from the figure, so 2 IV and 1 DV. Okay, the relationship present 2 independent variable and 1 dependent variable as follow. We can see the correlation between independent variable, which is between IV1 and IV2. Also, they have the direct relationship between IV1 to the DV, IV2 and the DV. Also, we can combine together IV1, IV2. So, in order to integrate to direct effect towards DV, for the direct relationship towards DV. Okay, for the test statistic, for the correlation determines the relationship IV1 with DV and IV2 with DV. We can also to integrate IV1 and IV2 combine to direct relationship with dependent variable. So we can also use this IV1, IV2 in multiple regression, which is combine IV1, IV2 towards or direct relationship with dependent variable. So in this example number 3, multiple relationship also can apply for the multiple regressions. We go to another example from 3 IV and 1 DV. So the relationship present on the 3 IV and 1 DV as follow. So we can see the relationship between among independent variables and directs towards with their dependent variables. So correlation determines the relationship IV1 with DV, IV2 with DV, IV3 with DV. Okay. Also, IV1 with IV2 and IV2 and IV3. So with the integrates all the independent variables, independent variable 1s, independent variable 2, and independent variable 3s, we measure the relationship with dependent variable. We call that multiple regression. So we can influence and effects between 3 independent variables, which is combines all towards and to measure the direct effects dependence variables. That this one also, like 2 IV and 1 DV, also we can use multiple regression. For the 3 IV also we can measure multiple regressions, directs dependent variables. So in other ways, so we have 1 IV and both, we have 2 DV. So 1 IV and 2 DV. The relationship present IV1 and 2 DV as follow. Okay. Test statistic. Correlations determines the relationship IV1 with DV, IV1 with DV2. So IV1 with DV1 and IV1 with the DV2 and DV1 with DV2. On this method also, we can use the regression analysis. Okay, can also be used in this multiple relationship by sorting the available variables. Okay, next, we also can use multiple relationship, and as they present this figure, so the relationship present IV1 and IV2 and 2 DV, which is we have 2 IV and 2 DV as follow. Okay, we can see IV1's direct relationship with DV1, IV1 with DV2, IV2 to DV1, IV2 to DV2. So we also correlate between IV1 and IV2, also correlate between DV1 and DV2. So correlations determine the relationship between IV1 with DV1, IV1 with DV2, IV2 with DV1, IV2 with DV2, also IV1 with IV2 and DV1 and DV2. So multiple correlation also can apply by measure relationship with combined IV1 plus IV2 with combination between dependent variable dv1 plus dv2. Okay, we can also apply for multiple regressions. Multiple regression, which is we combine independent variable iv1 and iv2 with combination of in dv1, sorry. And also we can use a combination iv1 and iv2 with dv2. So we have two testing here to show the multiple regression between IV1 and IV2 with DV1 and IV1 and IV2 with DV2. Okay, the last one is the measure on direct and indirect effects with the applied mediating variable. We can see the first thing first, we can see the effects, direct effect between IV1 to DV and then IV2 to DV, also MV to DV. So to measure indirect and by using the mediating effect between relationship IV1 and DV. Use a mediating effect of MV to measure the effect on effect on IV2 and DV. So MV represent on the mediating or moderating variable to measure on the indirect effect. So we applying so mediating to measure the direct effect between IV1 with the DV, IV2 with DV by using mediator or moderator. Okay, so this is a sum of differentiate if you want to clear and clear to understand between comparison between mediator and moderator. Okay, we can see the first mediator. So mediator is actually can be effect DV. Also IV can direct effect to mediator. So this become, so mediator will be influenced from IV with mediator, and also mediator will be effect the dependent variable that we call that mediator. But in the moderator is different. So actually IV measure the direct effect by DV, by moderator just involved to be relationship, direct relationship between IV and DV. So actually moderator not give effects towards DV or IV. So you just go through the relationship, and so we can know that how that this controls, how that this moderator will be effect on the relationship or effects between IV and DV, which is if you apply for mediator, so in this area you can see IV can effect a mediator and mediator will be effect on the dependent variables. Plus IV also direct effect towards on dependent variables. Okay, now the second part. Okay, the second part is discussion on the example of qualitative research instrumentations. Okay, qualitative research instrumentation is the most important. Number one, content of questionnaire parallel to research question. Okay, in order to come out the question, interview question, please make sure all the content question should be aligned or parallel to the research question. So should be to check this research interview question align specific numbers of specific research question. Okay, we also consider in order to check and your set of the interview question is based on the number of question. So number of question is belong to get the commitment from the participants. Also we want to know what we can measure regarding how long you want to make one interview sessions. So number three is based on the type of interview. For example, you want to interview based on the question on the structured interview or semi-structured interview or unstructured interview. Question ability to get rich. So this is a benefit when you use qualitative. For example, use instrument on the interview, you can get rich and sufficient response to answer study question. Okay, so in this method also, we can check that the question ability to get rich and sufficient response to answer the study question. Okay, this is a for qualitative research instrumentation should be content of question parallel to research question, number of question, type of interview question, ability to get rich and sufficient response to answer study question. Okay, this is some example. We can see that from here, from these tables, so we have discussion on area of investigations, aims of the cognitive interview, and example props. Okay, in the area investigation, we have 4 comprehensions, retrievals, judgment, and response. From the interview aims for cognitive interview, so number 1 for the comprehensions, we have number 1 to explore comprehension the key term with the questions. So we need to explore first comprehension the key term with the question. Example prop, what do you understand by the terms X when answer this question? We start with the question which is from the what and to explore first. What does the term X means to you? So we ask the question regarding what did you understand about term X? Then second question, what does term X means to you? Okay, next, regarding on the cognitive interview, to explore comprehension of question as a whole. For example, to see whether comprehension is influenced by the question length and sentence structure. In your own words, what do you think the question tried to ask? This type for prop is known as a paraphrase. Okay. Okay, after comprehension, we straightway go to the retrievals. Retrieve, number 1, for the cognitive interview, we establish whether respondent can recall the required informations. Okay, in this matter, for example, prop, how easy or difficult was it remember X? Okay, X represent on the terms. Second is to establish whether respondent restrict the recall to the reference period specified in the question. For example, in the last 7 days, how many unit alcohol have you drunk? Okay, in this method, what time period were you thinking about when answering? From when until when? When do you last do X? So this is part of retrieve. We start, for example, I'm trying to repeat on the props question on stage on retrieval. How easy or difficult was to remember X? What time period you thinking about when answer? From when until when? When do you last do X? So this is you want to retrieve. Number 3 question is consider area investigation on the judgment. To explore respondent strategy when answering. For example, do respondent use the accurate calculation strategy to just to guess? For example, this is example question from the prop question. How do you work out your answer to this question? How accurate you say about answer is? Okay. Next, to explore whether the question is considered sensitive or embracing and the impact this may have on the data collected. For example, do respondent edit their answer or refuse to provide an answer? Okay, you can ask the prop question, how do you feel about being asked this question? How comfortable will you feel answering this question in telephone survey about X, Y? Okay, the last one is respond. Okay, number 1, comprehension. Number 2, retrieve, judgment. The last one is respond. To explore whether respondents are able to map their mind answer into answer category available, and also need to check whether the answer category are missing from the list provided. So this is a response. How easy, difficult was to select an answer from the option provided? Why? Why do you tick that particular box, choose the particular answer rather than one of the others? Okay, are there any category missing from the option provided to cover everything what is missing? Okay, we start with the comprehension, that the last one should be response. In between, we can investigate for the retrieve and judgment. Okay, so next we can see the detail on the instrument of qualitative. So this part is about the interview item. So please remember that the first point you want to make sure your qualitative interview is sufficient, you should be make sure your questions interview is parallel and aligned to research question. Okay, you can see the example number one. What period experience do you have relate to NGS before the project begin? So this one align with research question number one. Okay, example research question number two. What do you think are the most important or critical aspect of NGSS and why? So this represent on research question number one also. Okay, interview item number three, number four, number five, number six, number seven, and number eight actually to answer your research question number one. Okay, next we can see the number nine interview items. Do you think of yourself as a novice, accomplished novice, or expert? So this will be can answer your research question number two. Okay, next, this interview item number 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 will be answer your research question number 3. Okay, so really important, interview question should be parallel or aligned with research question in your research. Okay, this is some example. Okay, we go through another. Okay, another knowledge on the development of the qualitative research questions. Okay, they have three areas here: type of question, explanation of type of question, example of type question. So this is another example table you can apply. For number one, it's about the introductory questions. Explanation, the type of question that are relatively neutral, general, and non-intrusive information and there are no retrainings. For example, based on the information that you provide in the questionnaire, you went to high school at, okay, that continue. Did you grow up in? If yes, go to the question number 2. If no, where did you grow up? See question 1 in the table 1. So that we have continued for the transition questions. Key question, the last one is a closing question. For a transition question, we can ask explanation on the question that link the introductory question to the key and question to be asked. For example, okay, you said that your, for example, mother, father, or guardians had the educations. Is that correct? If say yes, does the means that you are the first in your family to enroll the college. If say no, who else to your family has gone to college? Okay, so we go through next for the key question and closing questions. So this is we call that how that you can use the table to identify the type interview questions. So we have four type. We start with introductory, transition, key question, and closing question. Okay, this one, how that in the qualitative also, how that very important you should be know regarding focus of research, sub-focus of research, and question. Okay, let's say number one is about focus of areas is belief about what the nature of mathematics. So in this matter, a focus of research is about beliefs about the nature of mathematics. For example, the focus of research to represent your research question number one, and you want to know about belief about the nature of mathematics. So sub-focus research, you first thing first, you need to know about definition of mathematics. So the question based on your belief, what is mathematics? Okay, number two sub-focus is relationship between mathematics and daily life. So question, what is the relationship between mathematics and daily life? Elaborate. Number three is sub-focus research on the research question number one focus is actually belief, the development of mathematics science. Elaborate your belief on the development of mathematics science. Okay, next we go to the second one is about belief about the teaching and mathematics. So we have four teaching approach, role of teachers in the instruction, problem solving and motivation on learning mathematics. Or from each this question we go to specifically for teaching approach, elaborate your belief on effective approach to implement the teaching mathematics. Role of teachers in the instruction, what is the ideal role of the teacher in mathematics instruction? Problem solving, elaborate your belief in effective type to exercise, question to given to the student, who should design them, and what is the source, give you reason. Motivation, on learning mathematics, what method do you apply to motivate the student to learn mathematics? Elaborate. What do you want? Sorry, what do you do when students think that mathematics is not relevant to their daily life? The last one is about belief about the learning mathematics, the role of the student, how should student learn maths, what should student master to learn maths. Okay, from this question, it depends. So we have structured, semi-structured and unstructured. So in this matter, your question like the semi-structured. So if the final, the complete set question, we call that structured question. So this method is more suitable. And then because you want to explore, it's more suitable. At least use the semi-structured for the type interviews. Okay, this is some of the checklist, interview preparation checklist. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, number one is on what basis was this interview selected? Do I have a time and location of the interview? So that's why you need to have at least you need to discuss first and with the participants. So that's why rapport is very important. Okay, number three, what do I know about the interview regarding titles, experience, background, and so on? Has the interview been sent information on the topic and focus on the interview? Because this is really important. Some of the question, maybe the participant, we need to ready on that question. Should the interview question be sent to the interview before the interview? Will the interview use close-ended question or open-ended question or combination of both? Do I have some sample follow-up question identified for each interview question? What information must I get from the interview? What information is be nice to get but is not necessary from the interview? So this we call the guide assessing need for the interview preparation checklist. Okay, you see this one, another aspect on the interview protocol. So we have, you need to answer yes or no. So the feedback for improvement also we need to fill in. So number one is regarding on the interview protocol structure. So beginning the question are factual in nature. So we need to yes or no. So we write something here. Okay, key question are majority the question are placed between beginning editing question. So please take yes or no. So please give your suggestion for the improvement. Okay, a brief script throughout the interview protocol provide the smooth transition between topic areas. The interview close with express gratitude and any intents to the stay connected or follow up. Overall interview organized promote conversation flow. So the protocol interview, so we know that this part is yes or no, then give the suggestion for improvement. Next, writing interview question statement. Question statement are free for the spelling error. Only one question is asked at a time. Most questions ask participate to describe experience and feeling. Questions are mostly open-ended. Questions are written in non-judgment manner. So this is a quality matter on the interview question. You should be know that one only question asking at a time. Okay, you make sure don't spelling error, any mistakes regarding the wordings and sentence. Okay, so please at least you can get the experience sharing from the participants. So you need to know that the question is open-ended and non-judgment manner. Length of interview protocol, sometimes this is really important. So this is actually reflect on your time for the transcribe, how long you want to complete your part of your analysis. So all questions are needed. Question statement are concise. Okay, comprehension question statement are devoid by academics. Question and statement are devoid to academic language. Questions or statement are easy to understand. So this part of the interview protocol. So to measure the quality of your question, so participant will be easily and then clearly to answer your all question, and all the questions should be parallel to research question, and all the finding will be reflect and answer your research question, also the problem statements. Okay, so this is an interview guide. Okay, we can see another example of the interview guide. The interview guide is nothing more than a list of questions you intend to ask in an interview. The interview guide may contain a dozen of very specific question lists in particular order. So that's why we need the protocol to know that this is the equivalent numbers of the question to answer the all research question, or a few topical area jotted down in the particular order, unstructured or something in between. Generally, it's a good idea to ask for relatively natural descriptive information at the beginning in the beginning and interview. So this is some example interview guide. Okay, this is from interview guide for examples. So this actually from the Valenti. So number one, I understand that you are concerned about your health. Tell me about your health. Okay, we start the first question. Okay, we direct question, but the smooth metal question. Don't give the sensitive question for the question number one. So with number one, we start with, this is an example. Okay, I understand that you are concerned about your health. Tell me about your health. Okay, second question, what motivate you to learn about your health? Okay, tell me in details what the kind of thing you have done to be learn more about your health. What do you do first? Okay, where do you find information about your health? Tell me about a time when something you learned had positive impact on your healthcare. What kind of thing you have changed in your life because of your learnings? Whom do you talk about your health? Tell me about your current interaction with your health and care providers. Number nine, tell me about what do you to keep track on your health. What other things do you do to manage your health? What kind of challenge barrier do you experience when managing your health care? What else? So this is a closing question. What else would you like to share about your health related learning? So this is another good flow. This also we call that interview guide to represent 9 questions. How you recognize, how you make sure you sequence from one question to another question in order you have with opening and very good question for the closing also. Okay, this also example from Valenti 2005. Okay, this is some of the consent form. So this is really important for, especially for the research ethic, for the qualitative. For example, you should be right here your title of the research. Okay, need consent for interview by participant. Please initial box below. I confirm that I have had read to me the leaflet about this research project and understand the contents. I understand that my participation is voluntary and that I am free to withdraw at any time without giving a reason. I understand that the interview will be recorded and written out words for words later. The recording will be surely stored in accordance with the Data Protection Act. I understand that anything I say will threaten confidential and only used for the research purpose in accordance with the Data Protection Act. I agree to take part in the title of the research study. So this is an example qualitative research consent form, and this I get from the internet. Okay, so actually should be university provide this consent form. So all the student that they need to follow the standard form to get the ethics. So you need to consider your research ethics. Okay, that's it. We cover two area topic. One topic mostly related on the quantitative. So we learn about the correlation, regression, and structure aggregation model. So we have 7 example of the hypothesis relationship models. We start to cover parallels relationship, sequence relationship, on the multiple relationship with the number of 2 IV and 1 DV, 3 IV and 1 DV, and also multiple relationship with 1 IV and 2 DV, and also from multiple relationship with 2 IV and 2 DV, and the last one about the structural equation model. Okay, next one we cover for the part of a qualitative research instruments. So we need to know about the important how that qualitative research instrumentations. So they have some example and show the types, okay, a guide, and then the focus on the checklist, and then about the interview protocol and example of the interview guide. Okay, so I hope so that this all sharing knowledge will be help you to understand on the instrument, on the qualitative, also on the relationship testing based on the regression and correlation testing, also on the structure acquisition model. This is a basically knowledge you can get to understand about correlation, regression, and structure acquisition model, and also for the instrumentation for the interview guide. Okay, anything questions? And on these two topics, okay, any questions? And so we straight away to clearly focus on these two topic. I think that this is the most quite critical part. And for quantitative, you should know that regarding hypothesis testing. So why you need to do correlation, why you need to do regression or structure question model, why you need to measure, you need to support from literature, why you need, sorry, why in this research to answer your research question need to determine direct effect or indirect effect between variables IV to DV or by moderate and mediate by mediating variables. Okay, also in the qualitative, I think the most instrument, the important instrument in order to answer your research question is about interview. How that you need to prepare very good question, interview questions. So make sure you have enough question, all the question parallel to answer your research question. Don't duplicate, don't answer too many in one questions. So this question will be answer your participant. They have space to answer based on their experience. Okay, so a good, very good allocation time. Show your commitment and rapport before you start the interview. So you should be have very good plan before, during, and after interview. So you make sure you need to consider on the research ethics. Okay, whatever during the interview section. So all the confidentials or private data, you should be aware and follow the legal and the practices that applying for the data collection research. Okay, anything you want to ask about these two topics? Okay, ada soalan nak tanya yang berkaitan dengan dua bahagian ini? Okay, I'm trying to make it short, and so if you have any question to us that related and on the parts of the methodology on the quantitative and qualitative. So tonight I just bring two important topics. For topic on the hypothesis or relationship between variable in the models, and then for the interviews and interview guide, interview protocols, and then for the focus, and then for the checklist also. Okay, what the platform is the best to use when interview, online interview? Okay, the first thing first, Munirah. Okay, Munirah Balkis, we know that if you want to do the interview, natural setting is really important. If you want to interview a teachers, you need to go to the school to make sure you get the natural setting. But we have limitations. We have limitation to engage, to make it one-to-one interview, face-to-face interview. So you can apply for the online interview. Okay, which is you using Zoom or Meet or WebEx. But the most important thing, you need to prepare before interview. So you no need to straight away go to the interview. So you need to contact, bring good relationship like rapport. So I know that this is just only to online. Maybe you need to call first with the potential participants. So make clear what is your objective, why you need to purpose to do the interview. Before on that, you need to get the permission letter to select your participants. You are illegal, you are in legal part of to make it the interview. So all the process you should be done before your interview. So during the interview, you can use the platform online, but the both party have very good mutual understanding, and then we agree together that we can do the interview by agree time and good setting lah. For make it alternative, because we difficult to applying for the very really natural setting, which actually can apply because now, for example, school and or universities apply for the PDPR. So PDPR meaning all the teachers still teach a student but at home. So we can also do the platform the online. So make it the interview by online. Still in teacher at home, yeah, you also at home. So how you make that interview convenience, and then it's more practical. That's really important. So for me, before interview and during interview, you need to have very good plan and checklist in order to make sure that the process of interview going smooth. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Your question, Murira. Yeah. Okay, for structure question models, IV perlu ada MV sebelum beri effect of DV. Okay, this is important, Saiful Azlan. See, in term of when we talk about structure question model, it's about regress. Because in regress, we can measure effects and predictions. So correlation is not. When we talk about structure question model, it should present on regression. But in regression, if you applying SPSS, you cannot measure mediating and moderating in one model. So in structure question model, which is you can applying using Amos software analysis or SAM PLS, okay, to measure direct effect and direct indirect effect together. Okay, why we need SAM? Okay, this like this. For before this, from the previous research, a lot of research in Malaysia and the overseas already measure or determine relationship or effects between IV and DV. And in Thailand also determine IV and DV, and so in the Euro country, in American country, and nation also from the previous study also have done to determine between IV and DV. So what's next? What's next? So in research, after a lot of researchers done, or we call that saturated, to study between direct. So the next part, you can also measure on the indirectly. So that's why, based on the Saiful Azlan, before we start to measure moderating and mediating, so we should be know that have previously have done to measure the direct effect. So we go to next. We extend. So that's why we need to put a mediator and moderator as to be can measure direct effect and indirect effect. Dalam erti kata lain, we can see that hubungan direct effect between IV and DV cannot go. So the maximum achievement, for example, when we convert to percentage, effect percentage, only 80%. What's that? How to make sure that effects between IV and DV will be increased? So we need to support in order to make sure IV will be increased, DV, we need assistance. So that's why we need mediating. So mediating together with the IV will be increase the DV. So because for the direct effect, the maximum wise effect only 80%. How to be increased? So the solution you propose for mediating variable to make sure the direct effect between IV towards DV by mediate by your mediating variable will be increase the performance. I give another example. Let's say IV is leadership. Your DV is performance. So right now, if you measure leadership towards DV, only to get the effect only 80%. So other study in Euro also less than 80%, not more, touch more than 80%. So we think that as a researcher, you need to think what's next. So the next, you want to test the assistant or support, which is you want to propose a mediator. So in hope so, by using a mediator together with independent variable, will increase the effects. So maybe we hope so, by mediator, applying your research framework will be increased performance, maybe 90%, 95%. That's the reason. So if you are still new topic, don't study mediator. Need to firstly study on direct effect first. Next, you study on the mediator. That's really important. So that's why we call that SAM is direct effect and indirect effects. So you should be applied together direct effect and indirect effect in your research framework modeling. Okay. So anything questions? So what the benefits of SAMs? One, you can analyze all the effects represent on hypothesis in one single model and one single framework. So this is the best part. You can applying for the advanced software statistic such as Literal, SAS, SAM-PLS, AMOS, in order to make sure you get practically and then you get result to represent the fit and significantly. Ada soalan lain? Ada soalan? Terima kasih untuk soalan untuk Munira and Saiful Azlan. Okay. Kalau if you don't have any question, please use our channel platform. If you have any questions, the matter of the research methodology, so we are actually done cover on the database to get the article, journal and thesis. Also, we have learned about the introduction part in chapter 1. So we also learn about the literature review. We also learn about the basic of research methodology. And then we also learn about the writing, how to write in quantitative, qualitative and mixed method. So I just give some of the example. And then today we go to more rigorous. I hope so after this you need to go to specific class. So because last week we have last class, so you need to continue your class. Please go to attend outside class to learn more detail on the SAM. If you apply SAM, go to the another trainer to learn about specific about SAM. If you study on the qualitative, if you want to be structured, you need to learn what is en vivo, what is the Atlas TI. So you also can get more knowledge if you start with the manual dulu. If I need to learn about the qualitative, I start learn about how to analysis qualitative by using manual. Then after that, I'm trying to use a software like en vivo, and Atlas TI is more practically and easy to understand. So if I'm using the SAM, I need to mastering SPSS first. If I'm mastering SPSS, too easy to use that software like SAM PLS and almost and other software in the world. Okay, so I hope so. That's thank you very much your commitment and time. I'm sorry because conducting this class is quite fast and straight way. Go to this topic. I hope so. All the question and try to answer. If any less, I hope I'm say sorry. Okay, thank you very much. So make sure everyone will be joined the last class next week 14 to discuss on little bit how to write on the discussion and conclusion chapters. So make sure please ready to complete our assignments in order to give the result pass, and I hope so. I need to pass all everyone's. So please submit our assignments. Doesn't matter about the quality and perfectionist. So just complete your assignment. Just send your assignment to get the pass. So they're really important. Okay. Okay. See you by tomorrow. See you next week. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. Selamat sejahtera and selamat malam.